Hello, my name is Kyleigh Roberson, and this is my lesson for our apprenticeship alternative assignment in TESS 494 with Mrs. Ford. Hello class, today we will be learning about the artwork of M.C. Escher, his technique for creating his work, and lastly, creating your own artwork and the like of Escher. Escher invented a technique of taking a geometric shape, altering it, tessellating it, and then turning the shapes into objects to create a recognizable picture. Has anyone ever heard of tessellations? If not, I'm here to tell you. A tessellation is an arrangement of shapes closely fitted together in a repeated pattern without gaps or overlapping. All of the shapes lock into each other in an infinitely repeating tile pattern, kind of like a puzzle. So here I'm going to give you a quick visual math lesson to help you understand tessellation. So over here on the far left, this blue is a right triangle and it's a shape that tessellates. When you take the same shape and then you flip it onto the opposite side of the right angle, and over here on the far right, it creates a new shape. So if you follow, when we're creating our project, we'll be tracing, and you flip, trace, rotate, trace, flip the pattern over and over and over again. You'll create a repeating pattern that you see here that continues indefinitely with no beginning and no end. We are going to use squares to create our artwork to create a more complex pattern of tessellation in the likes of M.C. Escher. Okay, so let's go back to Escher for a moment. He wrote in his journal about how he was inspired to come up with his concept of tessellating a shape while visiting the Alhambra in Spain after seeing various patterns in tile work that you can see on the left side here. Can you see the patterns repeating? What are some of the patterns you see? Okay, good. These are forms of tessellation. All right, let's take a look at a few of M.C. Escher's works of art. In this piece, Sky and Water 1, we can see that geese up at the top here are slowly transforming into fish at the bottom. Take a moment to look closely at the image. Can you find the area where tessellation is occurring? Great job. Yes, in the middle or center area where the geese and the fish are simple shapes. You see how all the points of connection are touching and each shape repeats itself? Let me see if I can zoom in here, right in here. Sorry. That is tessellation occurring. When you move your eyes above or below this area, you can see that Escher slowly breaks away from the tessellation by using space and slightly modifying the shapes. Oh, sorry, taking a little bit time to load here. In Escher's piece here, called Day and Night, we can see several transitions occurring. What transitions do you see? Yes, there is a set of two different colors of birds. There's also birds transitioning into the sky and into the ground. What else do you see? That's right. Even the cities in the image and the rivers are tessellations. All right, now that everyone is familiar with Escher's work and his technique of tessellation, we are going to end this presentation and transition to me showing you a demonstration of the process of tessellation to create art. Turn this light on here. All right. So before beginning this project, there are materials that you need to have. You need to have a pencil, a pen, a pair of scissors, a ruler. Sorry, here's the ruler. Any kind or an example of sorry if this dropped, white drawing paper. And then any kind of tape. It can be clear or masking tape. Okay, so the first part we need to complete is to draw a square that is 2.5 by 2.5 inches onto any piece of paper. I, luckily for you all, have mine pre-cut. So next, you're going to take your pencil and you're going to draw an organic or geometric line on the bottom of your square from one corner to the other. And when you're doing this, you want to make sure that your lines aren't condensed and really squiggly, kind of all over the place, or else you'll have difficulties matching up your shapes and tessellating it. Now, on the right side of the square, we're going to repeat the same process. So from one corner to the other, draw a shape here. Okay, so now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut along each of these lines. When you're cutting, make sure that you're cutting directly on the line. And once you've cut out these shapes, make sure that you do not trim them, or else the edges of your shape will not line up. And then tessellation and pattern for your artwork will not occur. So there's one shape, and put that right there. Again, going from the corner. Don't worry if any pencil or pen mark is showing. You can even modify it as you're cutting it. This is just going to be the shape that we're going to outline and trace our tessellations. Okay, so now we have our square right here, and we've trimmed out all the pieces here. So now I'm going to take the pieces I just cut out, and I'm going to just put them back in the negative space so you can see here. So, excuse me, we're going to take each shape and we're going to slide it across to the opposite side of the square. So from the bottom to the top, and from the right to the left. Now if you look, I have a shape. So now what I'm wanting to do is, since you're going to be tracing from this, you want to make sure to tape down all of the pieces, and you want to make sure there's no gaps and that the corners are lining up perfectly. So there's one. Two. Line this up. 3, and 4. So now I have a shape. So the goal is, when you're making these abstract shapes, you want to start rotating it, and you can flip it over, and you want to look at it from all different sides. And you want to think about, what is it you see? What does it look like? Perhaps a fish, the face of a person, a flower. But as I'm rotating my shape right here, I'm seeing an abstracted form of a bird. To me, it looks like the bird is flying. So what I'm seeing is, here's the head, and then you have a wing right here, and the tail, and then the belly. So kind of a side profile of a bird. So now that I've decided what my shape is, this is going to inform where I choose to orient my shape on my final white piece of drawing paper. And then we're going to draw the pattern and do some tessellation. I apologize, it looks like my white piece of paper got wet somehow. So now, with your blank piece of drawing paper, we're going to place it right in front of us, and I'm going to take my shape, and I'm going to kind of move it around the page, and I'm going to decide where I want it. You can start in the corner, the middle. You could tilt it a little bit. So for me, it looks like my bird's going up. You can have it go straight across. I think I'm just going to tilt it ever so slightly. So now that I've decided where I want my shape to be, excuse me, I'm going to trace the shape. So when you're tracing with your pencil, I recommend pencil. So if you make any mistakes, you can go back and erase and fix it. As you're tracing, make sure that your fingers are putting pressure on the edges that are the closest to where you're tracing. Otherwise, your pencil may go underneath your form, or it may not stay put. Okay, almost done. Okay, so now we've got our form here. So after you made your first initial form, then you're going to put your template back on and then just slide over. See how the template just fits perfectly in this crevice? Also in these corners, they're lining up perfectly. So you're going to do this all the way around your page. And don't worry, I'm not going to do this entire page and make you watch me because this is time consuming. I just wanted you to see the initial process for you to get started. Oh, and if it slides, just move it right back. All right, so see how these shapes are together, and then you'd put your template here, here, all around until your entire page is full. Like I said, luckily for you all, I already did it, so you can see what it looks like and you don't have to worry about watching me do it. So now that you've covered your entire paper with your pattern, it's time for you to get creative. You will bring your pattern that you've created to life by adding either drawings or colors to your paper. You can use whichever medium you wish to choose, such as paint, markers, colored pencils, etc. So a good idea to do is to pre-plan what you're going to do with your color design scheme on a separate piece of paper before beginning your final piece. So here I kind of did some sketching with some pen, some colored pencil, and then some Sharpie to see the different effects I could get. I ended up deciding that I wanted my artwork to be bold yet subtle. So I decided to take two colors, blue and yellow for Sharpies, and I'm going to make one shape yellow for a bird and the shape next to it blue like the sky. And in order to give some texture, I'm just moving my Sharpie marker up and down, going clear up to the edge, and then I'm coming underneath and overlapping with the line I just created. And as you can see, it gives a really subtle dark pattern. So I would fill this shape completely with the blue. And then here, since I went this direction on the sky, I'm gonna go the opposite direction with the bird that's right next to it, just so that there's a subtle variation in pattern for when the viewer is looking at my artwork. And then I contemplated about how I want my viewers to see that in these shapes that I saw a bird, but I also want to let my viewers look at my artwork and be able to choose different objects or shapes that they see themselves. So for the bird, all I'm gonna do is add a simple black dot as the profile image of the bird with its eye, so that they'll get the hint that it's a bird, but then it's still ambiguous and they can decide what they view for themselves. Again, I'm not going to sit here and take up class time and fill all this in. It's very time consuming. So I wanted to show you my finished product. So as you can see, honestly, I wanted this to be sky, but it also could be water because the dark lines of the overlapping of the Sharpie marker could look like waves. And then the birds, the yellow is reminiscent of a duck, and you've got the little eye there. So what do you all think with my final tessellation project? Do you think I was successful with my approach and concept? Why or why not do you think that? Okay, those are good points. All right, that concludes the demonstration. You will have today and tomorrow in class to work on your tessellations. Go ahead, gather your materials, and go back to your tables to begin working. I will be coming around the room to observe, give input, and answer any questions you may have. Towards the end of class, we will stop working to clean up and take a short quiz. Thank you for watching my lesson.